1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All
one of resistance.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Rebellion.
Rebellion is built on hope.
And redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Reactions. This has been the week we have all been waiting for about a year now. It's crazy, but the week has come. We have gotten the premiere of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and we are going to have a blast talking about it, so let's get the ball rolling. I am one half of your hosting team. I am Aaron Harrison. Joining me, I tell you, he's my partner in crime, definitely. He is the Niku to my Kaz. He is the David Motters. David, what's up, buddy?
Well, I love your comparison there. Little Star Wars Resistance memories there. So always good to hear about that. And what's up is that I'm ready to react and super excited to talk about this episode with you. And I want to say at the very start here, we've got a new segment that I'm curious to see what people think. And we'll share that with them in a little bit. And I guess, one thing I was thinking about, Aaron, when I was texting with you about it was just kind of adding something a little bit different than probably what any other Star Wars podcast is going to discuss when it comes to this episode in the series, Season 2. So just a little teaser there for everybody, okay?
Oh, what could he be talking about? Oh, I know, and it's going to be fun. So we're going to have a great episode, and I can't wait to hear your new segment, David, when we get to that a little later. But we've had a lot going on. I mean, it's been pretty busy. We had Halloween weekend just passed. We got the first episode of The Mandalorian with all of its surprises, and you would think that would be enough to carry us through, but we got more stuff on top of that. Probably the biggest news, and what made me the most excited, was we got the name for the second Thrawn Ascendancy novel, and we got the release date. The next novel will be called Thrawn Ascendancy Greater Good, and it will be released May 4th, 2021. So I got something to look forward to pretty early here in 2021, as soon as if we ever get there, which we will. We're almost done with 2020. And it's going to be great. Have you read the synopsis they've released for it, David?
I didn't read it yet. No. What do we got? Give me a little bit of goodness.
All right, so here we go. Thrawn's. This is the synopsis that was released for the book. It says Thrawn's latest triumph still rests newly on his shoulders, despite leading the Chiss to victory and bringing glory to the House of Mirth. The true threat to the Ascendancy has not yet been extinguished. Their foes do not send threats or ultimatums, or mass ships on the edge of the chaos. Their weapons come cloaked in smiles and generosity, gifts offered freely, services granted unconditionally. Across the Ascendancy, seemingly inconsequential events could have heralded the doom of the Chiss, as Thrawn and the expansionary defense fleet rallied to uncover the enemy plot. They discover a chilling truth. Rather than invade Chiss capitals or pillage resources, this mysterious enemy strikes at the very foundation of the Ascendancy by widening the rifts between the 9 ruling families and the 40 great houses below. As rivalry and suspicion now sow discord among allies, each warrior must decide what matters most: the security of their family or the survival of the ascendancy itself?
Ooh. Well, that all rings very nicely, especially considering you and I have finished Chaos Rising, and knowing that book from start to finish, it's been out, and to hear this next step in the trilogy sounds really, really cool. And no better day than Star Wars Day for it to come out.
Exactly. So it's going to be great. And with this announcement, they actually made a second announcement that they are going to be releasing a special edition of the first book, Chaos Rising.
Oh.
And this they're doing in order as part of their celebration of Thrawn's 30th anniversary. You realize it's been 30 years since Heir to the Empire has been released, and we were first introduced to Thrawn? That is crazy. To celebrate his 30th anniversary, they've teamed up, Del Rey's teamed up with a company called Out of Print to release a limited edition of Thrawn Ascendancy Chaos Rising. The book comes encased in a foil-stamped slipcase and printed with a piece of Chiss iconography. The book itself has a brand new matching cover created by illustrator Magali Villanueva, depicting the young Thrawn as he appeared in the series, wearing the uniform of the Expansionary Defense Force.
Yeah.
Includes a special Chiss blue stained pages similar to the blue accents throughout the first release of the novel. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, if that wasn't enough, each copy of this limited edition will be signed by Timothy Zahn himself.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Now, here's the catch. There will only be 750 of these special edition released.
Wow.
And it's yours for $150.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh.
You have no clue how tempted I am. You know what Thrawn? Thrawn means. I love Thrawn. Out of all the villains in Star Wars that we've had, from Vader to the Emperor to the Inquisitors to Maul. I love Maul, but all the villains we've had, no matter whether they were Empire, First Order, or Bounty Hunter, it doesn't matter. Inquisitors. Thrawn has always been my favorite. All the way back to Heir of the Empire, too. I love the character. So this is just like the ultimate bad Aaron.
Well, I've been with you at Celebration when you see Chopper merchandise and how you do a lot of talking to yourself and what this will do to your marriage and so on and so forth. So this is pretty funny to hear you wrestling with this one. That's something else. That's pretty sweet.
Oh, it's beautiful. If you look at the pictures of I turned my phone off. Never mind. I was gonna take a picture of the screen and send it to you. For those of you that are listening, we're actually recording this episode on November 3rd, which, of course, here in the United States, for anybody listening overseas, is Election Day. So there's a lot of as we're recording, election results are rolling in, and I was being distracted, so I literally turned my phone off so I would not have to deal with election nonsense. So my phone is turned off, but you got to check this out, David. It is done. Yeah. I'll get you a picture for you to look at, and the cover too for Thrawn for the next novel, Greater Good, is awesome. Where this one, the first one had the crisscrossing snakes and everything with Thrawn. This one actually has the same crisscrossing snakes, but the background is red. It's like blood red with the black accents. And right in the middle, you have the outline of a white fit. It's in white, but it's supposed to be obviously Thrawn walking up. Oh my gosh, it's a gorgeous cover.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm with you. I've so enjoyed Thrawn, and of course, you and I covering Rebels back in the day on Rebels Reactions had a lot of fun covering Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was so excited when they brought him into Rebels. So that was awesome. That's awesome. That's our first piece of news there. Next piece, of course, is for our Galaxy Edge friends. If you are near Galaxy's Edge or at Galaxy's Edge here in Florida, I know, of course, California is not open yet, so I don't know if they're available out there yet. But I know here, this past, just actually a day or two ago, they finally released the Ahsoka Tano Clone Wars Season 7 Legacy lightsabers, the color-changing ones. So the blue and the green.
Yeah.
Those were finally released. And I know a lot of people excited about those. It was a huge release set party and everything that they did at Galaxy's Edge, where Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka, showed up and was actually signing the cases of the lightsabers as they were being purchased. So
man.
it was quite an event. So those are available. I know they're available in the park now. I don't know if they will be. I'm pretty sure they'll probably make their way to the shop at Disney Springs, because a lot of the Legacy Sabers are showing up there as well, since they're not getting as much business as they used to in the parks with the limited access that they have going on. So if you get a set of those, let us know. Send us some pictures, what they look like, and let us know. But those are currently available, so check those out.
Man.
All right. Last bit of news we're going to cover today. Of course, due to, the lockdowns and coronavirus and everything that's been going on, the annual Halloween gala for Rancho Obi-Wan, which is normally held Halloween weekend, was postponed, and it has been rescheduled for Saturday, November 21st. And it's going to be a virtual gala, which is going to be pretty cool. They're still going to have special guests, costume contests. This is what I really want to know. They're going to do a virtual wine tasting.
Oh, jeez.
How? I can't. I don't know. Trivia and much more. They'll be included, and of course, all the proceeds go to Rancho Obi-Wan, which is, of course, the large nonprofit Star Wars collection Steve Sansweet has and runs. Incredible collection that he has. It's going to be a great online event. Of course, you can go to ranchoobiwan.com and, of course, find out all the information there and see what's going on and how you can participate in that virtual gala. So that looks like it'll be fun as well. So,
yeah, I've always wanted to get out to that. That'd be so cool to be able to do. But that's not easy to get all the way across the country up to the Bay Area, and do that. Yeah. When is it now, the virtual event?
The 21st of November.
Okay. Interesting. That might be something fun to do, That could be
it would be fun. I mean, I'm going to definitely check out the details and see if I can work my way into being able to free up some time to be a part of it. Because I always thought that going to the gala would be fun. I just never could, being in Florida, afford to go out there, much less, have convince my wife to, hey, I'm going to California for the weekend. Have fun with the kids.
Exactly. Yeah. And Yeah, it's a lot. Airfare, staying at a hotel out there. Yeah. I don't know. It's a bucket list thing, right? We got to do it,
It
buddy.
is.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, it's definitely a bucket list thing. I could cut some expensive if Filoni would let me crash on his couch.
Exactly. Hey, Dave, you got any spots? Oh, gosh.
Hey, George, can I stay at the ranch?
Be like you and I doing fanboys all over again,
That's probably why it'll never happen.
YouTube yahoos, yeah.
All right. So that wraps up our news. Man, we just got a great episode to talk about with The Mandalorian. I tell you, I have been waiting for this series to come back. 2021 made it even harder to wait for this because everything else is being canceled, man. This is what I've been hinging my bet on, and we finally made it. And I can tell you, I was not disappointed. Not disappointed at all. This was a fun episode. So we are talking about Season 2, Episode 1, which is called Chapter 9, The Marshal of The Mandalorian. This great episode was released on Disney Plus on October 30th of 2020. And, of course, is available to stream right now exclusively on Disney Plus. This episode was written and directed by the incredible Jon Favreau. And once I learned it was Favreau who wrote and directed this, I understood everything. I loved this episode. But I am going to relinquish the floor to you, David. What were your first thoughts when you watched this episode?
Well, you'd mentioned it earlier. It's hard to believe that it was November 12th of last year when we saw the very first episode, Season 1, Episode 1. And the episodes were done by December. So we have not had any new Mandalorian content until basically here at the end of October, beginning of November. So 10 months, basically 11 months. And it was worth it. I couldn't be more pleased. Before we got this first episode, on various outlets and Entertainment Weekly and stuff like that, or even sound bites, you could hear sound bites of Pedro Pascal, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, Giancarlo Esposito, and other people, Gina Carano with the show. They were talking about this Season 2 taking it up a level, and they were not exaggerating. The story, the special effects, the music. I really loved this episode. And for me, there was a couple of standout aspects of this particular episode. One would be, the crate dragon. That was movie level. And we got it on our TV. Going back to what you said a minute ago, considering all of 2020, this is much needed. This is so thankful this is coming out right now. A second standout moment for me would be seeing Mando and Cobb Vanth, and he of course has Boba Fett armor on, flying around the crate dragon and shooting their blasters at it. Just incredible. And third, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this, maybe someone has by now, but I noticed some similarities to Season 1, Episode 1, and this is Season 2, Episode 1. And one is seeing Mando used his whipcord to tie up, I can't remember the guy's name, the character at the beginning as the single eye, but Mando ties him up over the light pole, but he dies in a unique way. In Season 1, we saw him use that whipcord to grab onto a Quarren, I believe, and pull him through the door, and he died in a unique way, getting cut in half. And the other thing was him using his Ambin pulse rifle. He did that on that big, huge, I always want to say it's a huge walrus that breaks through the snow and ice, and he zaps that thing in season 1, episode 1. And then if you notice, he's zapping that thing to get outside of the belly or the mouth of the crate dragon. And so I thought that was kind of neat, two similarities to those 2 episodes. And then, of course, the big reveal, the 4 standout for me was seeing Tamara Morrison as Boba Fett.
Or is he Boba Fett?
Oh, you're not going to do that to me, are you?
Well, that closing scene in and of itself left you believing that it could have been.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, but I mean,
no, he
I
could
think,
be any number of millions of clones.
Yeah.
He could be Commander Wolf. He could be Rex.
Well,
we don't know.
Right. I'm going with Boba Fett right now, especially with the armor. and I have a question at the very end as part of my final thoughts. So to tie it back around to what we're talking about right now. Yeah.
Understand. All good. Well, for me, minus thoughts when I sat down to watch it, I was giddy as could be. When the scene opened up with the recap of what happened last season, and you hear the armorer telling the story, I mean, it just, as soon as it started, I was like, oh, yes, finally. And literally was on the edge of my seat the whole day, the whole hour watching this. And what was cool is this was longer than most episodes were last season. Most episodes last season were between 38 and 40 some minutes, where this was 53 minutes. Yeah. So a little longer than some of the other episodes, than the episodes last season, which was cool. I hope that's how they keep this throughout this season. But this whole episode, to me, in my opinion, was a love letter to the fans for waiting 11 months for a new season.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what this was. So, incredible episode. I loved it. It was a lot of fun, a lot of exciting. I loved a lot of the Easter eggs. I was surprised we returned to Tatooine so quickly, but I was happy we did. And of course, seeing Peli Motto again was a real treat. I mean, we saw her season 1 in the episode Gunslinger, which was a great episode on Tatooine. So seeing her again, it felt like coming home. It was great to see her again. I can honestly say I did not expect for her to return, but it was awesome seeing her and her pit droids. Her pit droids were a little bit of comic relief in there, which was awesome. Then, of course, we got ties in to the novels, tie into A New Hope, tie in directly to Obi-Wan Kenobi, which was awesome. And, of course, the whole thing was tremendous. We had sand people. We had everything going on. It could not have gotten better. And of course, the big surprise with Boba Fett's armor and, of course, Tamara Morrison there at the end. Oh, incredible. So awesome. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. So,
I got a question for you.
Sure.
And I don't have it in our notes, but I was just thinking about it, because when you were talking about Easter eggs, I meant to ask you, when Cobb Vanth and Mando are flying on speeders, that's part of a pod racer, isn't it? That Cobb Vanth is on.
Oh, why? Yes. If that was Anakin Skywalker's pod racing engine.
It looked like it, right?
It sure did look like it was part of Anakin's pod racing engine from episode 1. So, yeah, absolutely. That's what it looked like to me.
Okay.
Because you know that pod racer's still there somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not beyond. Not beyond. What's his? I just blanked on his name.
Oh, Cobb Vanth.
No, not Cobb Vanth.
Oh.
The guy that owned Anakin.
Watto.
Watto.
Yeah.
I can see Watto stripping it for parts and selling it.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, that makes perfect sense. If it would, I mean, there's no confirmation that it was Anakin's pod racer engine, but it really looks like it.
That'd be cool if it is. Yeah.
It really would be cool. So it was just one of several Easter eggs throughout this episode, which we are going to talk about as we go through. But before we do need to take a quick break. We're going to be right back, and we will keep talking about the Marshal. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here, and we are continuing our discussion of the Marshal, Chapter 9, the Marshal, which is the first episode of Season 2 of the hit series, The Mandalorian. This would be a great spot to, throw in some Mandalorian music. But great episode. Just a quick synopsis. First off, if you have not watched this episode, do not listen any further because we're going to spoil the snot out of it. Big time. And we've actually been spoiling it already. So if you haven't watched it, my bad. No, not my bad. Go watch it now. Go. Shoo. Go watch it. Hit pause. We'll wait for you. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed it. So, Chapter 9, The Marshal. Quick synopsis. Of course, this is the episode, first episode of the season. Kicks off, of course, with the Mandalorian beginning his quest to find the child's quote-unquote kind. He's looking for his people that he can reunite them with. And, of course, he sets out to find other Mandalorians to help him on his quest. And, of course, along the way, he ends up on Tatooine, where he runs into Cobb Vanth, who is dressed up in a very familiar Mandalorian's armor. And, of course, he wants the armor back because he realizes Cobb is not a true Mandalorian and doesn't deserve to be wearing the armor. Because first thing he does is pull the helmet off and start having a conversation with him. So Cobb agrees to return the armor if he helps them eliminate a pest to their village. And that pest ends up being a crate dragon, which we've heard about for a long, long time. And the adventure pursues from there as they battle a crate dragon. The episode actually begins with something we're all very familiar with. We've seen it in the preview and the commercials and everything. We see him walking into the arena to meet the Cyclops. It's just what I call him because for some reason I did not write down his name. But he is the Cyclops to me.
Yeah.
And
Gore Koresh or something along those lines. I saw it on Twitter, like they said, character of the day, and it had his name, and so
yeah,
I should have had this written down too. Forgive me.
Yep. So, but he ends up meeting with him, and to find out where the nearest Mandalorian is, because he apparently is. This Cyclops was connected to Mandalorians. And come to find out, it's not because he's a good guy. It's because he is a collector of Beskar, because it sells really expensive on the market. It is Gore Koresh. I just found it. Gore Koresh is Cyclops. I prefer Cyclops. But Gore Koresh. So this is where we get that scene in the trailer where he's in the arena and next to the ring, and everybody pulls a gun on him, and you see the Whispering Willows or whatever pop out, and his arm and Baby Yoda goes into hiding, and everybody starts dying.
Right.
Well, it's simple as that. It's what happens. Everybody dies. They all get their tails kicked by the Mandalorian. And I think probably the funniest part of that fight was the Gamorrean who was not murdered in the ring comes flying over the top rope to try to catch the Mando, and the Mando just sidesteps him. He slams into the ground.
Exactly. Yes.
it was perfectly funny. I loved it.
Not elegant.
No, not elegant. No, not elegant at all. And we see a lot going on in this scene. A lot of fighting, just a lot of fun. Now, of course, during the fight, Gor Koresh, a.k.a. Cyclops, does escape. Mando uses his rope, ties him up, and kind of hangs him upside down from a light post to interrogate him, and that's how he finds out he needs to go to Tatooine because there's a Mandalorian on Tatooine. So, and this is where we get a really cool but cold scene from the Mandalorian. He's like, "You got to promise not to kill me," and Mando's like, "You will not die by my hand." So, Koresh gives him the information he wants. So Mando goes walking away. He's like, "You can't leave me up here." And he's like, "Well, that wasn't part of the deal." And then he turns around and shoots out the light. Well, why do you shoot out the light? So all the ravenous creatures that live in the dark come out and kill Gor Koresh.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That unique way of dying. Like you end up seeing him doing that with a corn, squeezed in between the doors. In that very first scene of season 1, episode 1. Yeah,
it was. And you're right. It does very much mirror what happened in the first episode of season 1, where he just literally he comes walking up, he ends up getting into a fight, and he ends up winning, and it gets bloody, and he walks away.
Yeah,
that's what he wants and leaves.
Yeah, really mirror. Yeah.
It's a very much mirror. I wonder if that was because the opening scene of the first episode of season 1 was such a huge hit. They wanted that. I mean, I guess if you've never seen season 1 and you start watching now, which I don't know why you would have gone back and watched just 8 episodes of season 1, but if you were just starting out of the blue with season 2, this gives you an intro to, I guess, the type of guy the Mandalorian is, per se.
Right. Good point. Yes. Because
he's got the child, and he lets you know wherever he goes, I go, or wherever I go, he goes, and he lets you know I got to reunite. It lets you know his mission. I've been quested to reunite him with his kind. So, and I need Mandalorians to help me with my quest. So it literally in literally less than a 30-second conversation, you're caught up essentially with what he needs to do and what his mission is, so you know where he's at the end of season 1 already.
Well said. Yes, and you can get right into the action. Yeah, you don't have to do a lot of exposition, a lot of talking. It's right there, and yeah, even the preview, right? The preview we got before the season started is, it's the armor giving us the synopsis as well. So they really do a nice job of making sure we all know where we're going with this.
Exactly, and of course, from there, that's when we proceed to Tatooine, and where we get to see Peli Motto right off the bat when he arrives. Of course, she is the mechanic there, and Mos Eisley, where he lands, and of course he gets the speeder from her that he got left her in the gunslinger, and goes out in search of oh my gosh,
well, when he gets the speeder and they go out and look for Fennec Shand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so he goes out and he's having just to look for. He borrows the speeder again to go out to Mos Pelgo, where supposedly this Mandalorian is hiding out. And this, of course, where things, the fan factor just kind of skyrockets at this point. Because, of course, as he's flying into Tatooine, you can see the planet. And as he's approaching, you see the sand people on the banthas. You got the shots of above of Mos Eisley. And it's really it's very much an homage to episode 1, or excuse me, episode 4, where we get to see that stuff for the first time in A New Hope.
Yeah, they give us different angles again, kind of like what you said with the gunslinger. I did go back and, watch, the episodes. You and I talked last year. I mean, I watched each of the 8 episodes 3 to 4 times each, some more than that. And going back to the gunslinger, when you see the Razor Crest come in, it's just so beautiful. And this time, same thing, just some different angles as he comes into Mos Eisley. And just really, really neat to see different angles. Again, it's not overdone. It's not, too little. It's not too much. It's amazing how Filoni and Favreau really get that balance. But yeah, I thought it was really cool seeing her, like you said, her pit droids and even her sense of humor. I think seeing her at the end of that episode last year, Gunslinger, it really showed her appreciation for Mando, especially with, she thought he wasn't going to be able to pay her, and he paid her and more, and that meant a lot to her, and so here he is coming back. It's neat to see him. I like this. You get into season 2 and you can come back to some familiar characters, and in this case, friends that he's made along the way. I really liked that.
Oh, definitely, I do too, and I think it was a good thing bringing her and the pit droids in at this point, because from here on out, everything gets real serious and very fast paced, and this is a comic relief in the middle of before the storm, per se. It's the calm before the storm.
Agreed.
And we get the comic relief when he comes off and the pit droids come running up and she's like, "No, stop, don't you know he doesn't like you?" And he's like, "Oh no, they're fine. It needs a good look over." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, go ahead, guys. He likes droids now." And then he pulls a satchel around with the child in it, and she's like, "Oh, thank the Force. I've been worried about this. How much you want for him? He's so cute." No, seriously, not that I would buy him. Oh no, seriously, but really, how much would he? Then it's like, if he spawns, or if he divides or spawns or whatever, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Just that comic interaction was great. And then again, you get fan service right here, because as they're talking about Mos Pelgo and where it is, what does she do? She calls over R5.
Oh, yes.
From A New Hope. R5, the red droid with the bad motivator.
Yeah, and what's great, right, buddy, is you and I know that R5-D4 was in that Gunslinger episode last year, Chapter 5.
In the cantina.
In the cantina. And then she makes a quick little line to establish why is R5 over at her particular docking bay. And she said, it's just hard to find good help. And she obviously bought him or hired him or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he was over there. So I thought that was really neat how she quickly said that.
Oh, absolutely. I thought it worked perfectly. And I love the detail they put into R5, because as he's rolling around and you see him from the backside, you see where the motivator blew. Exactly. In A New Hope, it's all scarred and black around that. It's where the oil shot out. It's just well detailed and well thought through, and I could not have been happier. I will admit, I did squeal a little bit when I saw him, and when I saw the detail that they put in where the mad motivator would have been and everything, I did squeal a little bit. I confess.
Yeah. No, it's allowed. You know what I thought about too is, I guess I felt like Mandalorian hasn't been gone that long because you and I, over the summer and into the fall, covered the 8 episodes of Disney Gallery, the behind the scenes docu-series on the Mandalorian. And so it didn't seem like it was that long ago. But what you made me think about, buddy, was when Favreau and Filoni were talking about, making a show with like the action figures that weren't, say as popular. Like if, I don't know if it was Filoni or Favreau saying, your brother would grab, Luke, Han, and Leia, and, maybe even, C-3PO and R2-D2, and you get, Greedo, a Tusken Raider, an R5-D4, 'cause I have R5-D4. I got it, back in 1978, along with my R2-D2 and C-3PO and Luke and Han and Leia and Vader. And so I really thought about that. They're continuing that whole thing of having a lot of fun, and Jawas, like, right, and having those characters, these, what does Favreau call them, background characters, and just having a lot of fun with them. And they're doing that and doing it in such a neat, fun way. And who would have thunk it that it'd be so popular to have all these secondary characters? But people should go back and listen to that docuseries and hear Favreau talk about that and these characters that they've picked to showcase, including R5-D4.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely is. And I really hope they do that for this series as well, for this season, I should say.
Yeah.
Because that would be cool. It was so cool to see the background for season 1. It'd be awesome to see it for season 2 as well. So fingers crossed we get season 2 for the gallery as well. So, as we said earlier, Mando takes the speeder and heads to Mos Pelgo, where he, of course, comes riding into town. And, of course, this is where things turn very Western. This is where it turns into a very Western type of feel, because you have the mysterious stranger riding into town. Of course, not on a horse this time; he's on a speeder bike, and everybody's just that still lives there is kind of turning and just kind of staring at him like, "What's up? Who are you? What are you doing here?" And he rides, and where does he go? Just like in every cowboy movie that I've ever watched, he pulls up. He gets off the speeder bike, and he walks into the saloon.
Yep.
He there he goes. He walks into the saloon and, of course, talks to the bartender, asking about Mandalorian. And next thing you know, in walks the Marshal. Asks him what he's doing in town and who he was. And, of course, that's when we get the glimpse of it. First, we see it shadowed or kind of outlined by the sun, but as soon as he steps in and you focus in on the armor, oh my word! How did you feel when you saw Boba Fett's armor?
Oh man, it's funny because I think my brain was one step behind. Thinking about this being Tatooine and who is this Marshal and stuff like that. But seeing it is just incredible. And it's, pockmarked, and you can tell the green is faded on the helmet and on the chest plates and stuff. And, you can tell he's got the jet pack and things like that. And, but it was just, it was really, it was really coming together, and it was a aha moment. Particularly, well, I guess should I cover it now, or should I wait till final thoughts about, kind of how this has all come together? I have a section. In fact, I should cover it now, shouldn't I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because like you said, like the reason, and I'm explaining it now, is because my brain was a step behind, but then it all coalesced and came together, and I'm like, oh, of course, this is Alphabet Squadron, or Alphabet. Yeah, you and I just read the recent Aftermath, right? We've got all these books that come after Return of the Jedi. No, what I put in the show notes, and Aaron and I talked about this, is Chuck Wendig did a trilogy starting in 2015, right when all the new canon stuff was coming out. And his first book of a trilogy was called Aftermath, in this Aftermath series. And he has these interludes where he describes different things going on different planets across the galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy. And he has an interlude towards the end of Aftermath called Interlude Tatooine. And the very first line says, Jawas stink. And it proceeds to go on and explain to us, and I do remember this. This is why, like you said, what was my reaction? I'm like, oh my God, it's all coming together. We were originally introduced to Cobb Vanth in this interlude. And there's a few differences between the book and what we saw in the episode. The main one is that Cobb Vanth is by himself in this episode in the Sandcrawler, in the callback, when he notices Boba Fett's armor. In the book, he's in the Sandcrawler with a guy named Adwin Charu. And Charu works for a mining company called the Red Key Company, one of these mining companies. And in the flashback, you see Cobb describe, a mining company coming in and taking over Mos Pelgo. So again, you see the similarity. In the book, Cobb shoots Charu like in the arm, in the shoulder area, doesn't kill him, and takes the armor, says, I'll take that, which is again Boba Fett's armor. And then he tells Charu to go back and tell his boss he's the new lawman in town. And so to come full circle back to your question and what was my response, first it was, wait, what? Oh, yes, I know this. And I thought, wow, it was so neat that Favreau and Filoni, went there and used that bit of history to show us that Boba Fett's armor, we don't know exactly how the Jawas found it and where they found it, but they've got it. And so the book and the TV show here were pretty similar. And so I was really excited to see that tie together with the books that you and I have been reading and trying to keep up with.
And that's one thing I mentioned too, when opening was how it tied into the books, and the fact that we actually went back to Aftermath was incredible, and we pulled this character in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time that correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this the first time we've had a character created in the new canon of novels that has only been in the books, pulled into live action?
It's interesting because I'm looking over at all my books right now, and you and I have these. Created, yeah. Because I was thinking last season, in all 8 episodes, do we have? Yeah, Moff Gideon is not in the books. This might be it. Maybe a listener can tell us different, right, my friend?
Yeah.
I think so. Again, I'm looking at the books up there, and I'm just trying to scan my mind very quickly through chapters 1 through 8 last year. I think that might be a good call, but yeah, someone should, tweet in or email us if there is somebody else, Yeah.
It would be nice. It would
Yeah.
be interesting. So we will see what it is. But I think I want to say everything from I know. And now, granted, I will say this: I have not read everything that's out there. There's a lot that's been released. I just have not. I just have not read it. But I think it was. I want to say it's the first time we've had a new character pulled in like this. I don't know.
Well, and I'm thinking too, like I mistakenly mentioned, I'm looking at, of course, you and I have read Alphabet Squadron, and then we read Shadowfall, and I'm thinking about all those characters, and none of them have been pulled in here to Mandalorian. And then when I look at the timeline, from Del Rey, the Aftermath books come after the Alphabet Squadron books, although Aftermath came out right in 2015 with
Yeah.
all the new stuff. So yeah, I've got to think about that. I've read most stuff. I haven't read everything, but I've read most of it. I don't know. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just thought I would throw out there, so I wasn't sure or not. So, all right, perfect. So we're going to take another quick break, and we will be right back, and we will keep going with our discussion of the Marshal. We'll be right back. And we're back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We're talking Chapter 9, The Marshal of the Mandalorian. First episode of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. We were just finished talking about Cobb Vanth as he shows up in the Mandalorian armor, which was incredible. And I loved the story. And we talked about his how the story differed from the book and how he got the armor and everything. So great discussion there. And I loved how they did the little flashback scenes in the episode too, showing how he says he got the armor in the show. So thought that was pretty cool. But then he goes off. This is when we find out that he needs help at this point, because once Mando realizes he's not a real Mandalorian, he demands the armor back, and we're about to have a good old-fashioned Western quick draw gunfight, which gets interrupted by a crate dragon.
Oh. Well, Timothy Oliphant, who I think I'm saying his last name correctly. If I'm saying it wrong, forgive me. He says a couple things before the crate dragon comes, right? He's like, so we're going to do this right now in front of the little one? And Mando says, what? He's seen worse. And then he's like, all right. And then, of course, once it starts to rumble, I love how Cobb Vanth, Timothy Oliphant, puts his one finger up. Like, can you wait just a second here? Can I go outside and see what's going on here? And I thought that was a neat little bit of humor. And, of course, they go out, and to see that crate dragon eat that bantha.
Oh, man.
Gosh. I saw someone tweet out, no banthas were hurt in the filming of this episode, That was funny,
Oh, it was. It was very interesting how that worked out. I liked how the crate dragon came in, and I love too. We get to see how it just is traveling underground. We get to see the ripples, and it reminded me a lot of the Lost Commanders episode in Rebels.
Yes.
And we had that underground creature that they were hunting at that point. So to me, this kind of this episode was honestly a conglomeration of a lot of different things. Took the opening scene from the first episode of The Mandalorian. It's taking it takes a couple things, I think, from the Lost Commanders episode of Rebels, which we'll get into more here a little later. Because I honestly feel the Mandalorian toward the end of this episode, he pulled his Zeb.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Well said. Yes.
But yeah, the only difference was he wasn't yelling Carabast as he did it. But I loved how it set this up, because then at this point, he's like, you know what? Marshal Cobb Vanth, Oliphant's like, look, I'll make you a deal. You help me get rid of that thing, I'll give you the armor back. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So
yeah,
they take off on their speeders. And I will say this, and I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. The child, yes, was in this. But I noticed one of the biggest things that stuck out to me about this episode is the child didn't steal the episode. After he was introduced in that last episode, in season 1, in that very first episode, he pretty much stole the scene in every episode afterwards.
Agreed. And I was actually going to mention that. Yeah, back with other standoff. Yeah. He doesn't steal the show. I'm glad he didn't.
No, he did it. To me, this was almost a reset of almost like a refocusing of who the star of the show is. Because I can't tell you how many memes I saw online saying, mirroring that angry cat, angry lady meme where it's got the Mando saying, "I'm the star of the Mandalorian," and then you got the picture of the child going, "The Baby Yoda show."
Right. Right.
I mean, and honestly, that's what a lot of people thought about it for the longest time. This is Baby Yoda show. Let's watch Baby Yoda. I mean, even some of my coworkers I talked to after the fact, when for my day job, I was talking to them, and they're like, "Yeah, we watched." They were all excited about the new Mandalorian because they got to see Baby Yoda again. And what I found strange, even though I noticed right off the bat, there wasn't he was in it, but he didn't steal the show like he did before. He was they had random shots. You see his little ears move. You hear him coo. He hides in the spittoon when the crate dragon comes through. But nothing, scene stealing like the magic hand thingy or or anything like that. So,
like I said,
that's my side tangent.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, buddy.
No, you're fine. I was just saying that's my side tangent.
No, I love that side tangent, and I agree with you. And I'm glad you said it though, because I'm glad they did that. Because the show is called The Mandalorian, and I like that little bit of reset there. That he has a few little fun moments, but it's not his episodes. It's the Mandalorian and Cobb Vanth and the Sand People who are really, and the townspeople who really get the focus, and the Crate Dragon. So I do like that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I thought so too. It worked really good for me. So now we'll see what happens as the season goes on. But I'm glad they did it this way, because we still got to see Baby Yoda. He was still super cute, as always. But it wasn't scene stealing, which worked out. Which worked out. So
yeah.
All right. So we still got half an episode to get through. We better get on the ball. Of course, from here, our heroes go and meet up with the Sand People, and of course, the Sand People and the Mandalorian and Cobb Vanth and the villagers reach an uneasy agreement to team up to defeat the Crate Dragon. And of course, what was really cool about the Crate Dragon, and I want to just go straight into the cave where they got all the trap plan. They buried explosives. They got to get it out and blow it up from underneath because that's where it's weakest. Again, to me, that's a nod to Resistance, where they had that space creature they had to blast from underneath.
Yes.
But really cool how they did that. They drug them out. And I love the fact the Sand People were using crossbows, man.
Right.
It's like something they took straight off the set of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, those were neat looking. And I would say this too, in terms of plot, I was like, is this how they're going to do it? I was like, wow, oh yeah, it's hard. They can't quite get it out, and they got to do more. And once they finally pull it out, it'll do it. And I love that wasn't the end. And then it comes into, like what I said, the standout part for me is, Mando and Boba Fett taking off. And this is like, your action figures. You're doing this in the sand in your sandbox, and you're having them fly around, and the Sand People are down there and townspeople, and you end up, blasting and defeating the Crate Dragon. So that was pretty cool, because I was like, are they going to really end it this way where it works, it explodes underneath the Crate Dragon? And I thought it was pretty cool when the thing kind of disappeared down underground, and none of them were convinced it was done,
Oh, yeah.
That was neat. That was cool.
And I love, too, as the battle progressed, he was just popping up all over the place.
Oh,
He wasn't just coming up from under. Because honestly, at one point, I honestly thought he was coming up from underneath to just take a mouthful of townspeople and sand people. But no, he ended up coming out of the top of the mountain
right.
over the cave.
Right.
Then he ended up coming out behind them out of another mountain. I'm like, dude, this thing gets around. And and I got to ask you, did it not remind you, the crate dragon, did it not remind you of a combination of the worm thing from Empire Strikes Back in the asteroid and the worm from Doom?
Exactly. I was going to say Empire Strikes Back. Yes, the thing coming up and out and the mouth opening all the time. Yes.
Yeah, it reminded me a combination of those two worms, which also have giant worm creatures. So,
right.
which I find ironic they do that, of course, with a new Dune movie coming out soon too. So,
yeah, I love the little eyes on the crate dragon.
mm-hmm.
Kind of neat to see him looking at Mando and Cobb Vanth. Yeah.
Oh, and when they're trying to get the crate dragon out of the cave, and they're using the call of the crate dragon.
Yeah.
That was
so
stinking awesome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll just say this. I wanted to be back where Boba Fett or Cobb Vanth and Mando were. I'll let other people call it out. I'll stand back here. Obviously, they join the fray. So, and they leave Baby Yoda back where it's safe, theoretically.
Absolutely. Now, I really like to how they ended the fight. They got him on top of the explosives that they had buried, and they detonate, and the plan failed. It's still alive. Like I said, he started popping up all over the place. But Mando, of course, gets his idea to get one of the banthas that's still loaded with the explosives and attract the crate dragon over to eat it. And, of course, then detonate it while it's inside. And, of course, things don't go as planned. And as the crate dragon's coming, he goes to get rid of Cobb Vanth because Cobb Vanth is next to him blasting away. And I love the fact that, reminiscent of Return of the Jedi, he hits him in the jetpack malfunctions, and he goes flying.
Right.
So obviously something is wrong with Boba's backpack.
Right.
It just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. But this is where I said he pulled a Zeb, because at that point the Bantha sees the crate dragon coming and is like, "Yeah, I'm out of here," and turns to take off. And Mando's trying to hold him in place and gets eaten with the Bantha. And of course, just like Zeb got eaten by the worm thing that they were hunting hunting in Rebels. And of course, they kill it and Zeb walks out. Well, in this case, right before the crate dragon dies, you see it kind of curl up, its mouth opens, and it's screaming in pain. And you see Mando coming out, and he's got his rifle out, and he's shocking it all over the place as he's coming out. Then he detonates the explosives. And of course, we have, whale meat flying everywhere. Essentially, dragon meat going everywhere. And of course, everybody lived happily ever after, didn't they?
Well, yeah. Sand people and the townspeople, hopefully. Yeah, no, and of course, then they show one of the Tusken Raiders holding up that pearl, right? Which I don't know if that comes from John Jackson Miller's Kenobi novel or what that comes from. Can't remember, but right, that's part of. Is that maybe EU? Maybe.
I think it came out of the EU. Yeah. The crate dragon pearl, which it was cool to see that. It did I'll say first, when it first held it up, it didn't hit me. That's what it was. I'll be honest. I'm like, okay, great. They got an egg. There's going to be a new one soon. Initially, what I thought. Like, we'll be doing this again soon. It never even clicked that it was the Crate Dragon Pearl.
Yeah. Yeah. That was cool, you know?
It was very cool. The whole thing ended well, and it was very. And of course, I've made in our rush discussion, we have made it very anticlimactic. But it's a lot of action. You know, there's a lot of excitement going on. It is a very edge of your seat fight against this Crate Dragon.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun. We got to see a lot of sand people, which was great. And of course, when they win, the sand people are, of course, got their coffee sticks above the air and are celebrating with their rifles. And clan people the townspeople are celebrating, and it's great. And it ends, of course, with Mando, of course, wrapping up a big piece of meat on his back of his speeder. Of course, he's taking it for food. And Vanth walks up and gives him the armor.
Yeah.
You know, I almost half expected Mando to say tell him to keep it, but he didn't. So
yeah, I thought he might too, just because he saw how much this guy cares about the townspeople, and he's putting it to good use and helping others.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course we get the stinger at the end, right? And I guess, you know, one of my questions is if that is Boba Fett, you know, he has a gaffy stick on the back, and it looks like a gun, gun and a gaffy stick, just like sand people have. Was he in a Tusken Raider outfit battling the Crate Dragon there, along with Cobb Vanth and them? Is he trying to get the lowdown on his armor? Has he been living among the sand people? You know, that's all questions that I have. You know.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of questions because it was it was really really interesting to have the scene end with him like that. Just kind of standing there with the gaff. You couldn't quite tell if he just had one or if he was with the sand people or not. And if so, is this meaning that what we see of the sand people they're under a mask somewhere or what?
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting because as they're, and I'm rewatching that closing scene now. He the way he's dressed, he's got the rifle like the sand people. He's got the gaffy stick, but he's not dressed. The robes he have don't remind me of somebody with the sand people.
Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't know if he took off the outer garb. Right? Wasn't there a Jedi that was a Tusken Raider, and you know, and he took off the mask? You know, he's a human underneath. But I'm not fully sure about sand people Tusken Raider lore. You know.
Yeah. I'll have to do some checking on that because I'm not sure about that either. So. Yeah. But it was good. It was good to see him back in Star Wars. To see Tim Morrison back in a Star Wars setting again. So, and I'll be interested to see if they confirm he's Boba Fett or if they confirm or if he's somebody else. Who knows? So. It very well could be Boba Fett because looking at the armor was intact. The armor was intact. So that means he wasn't digested by...
Right. And you kind of look at his face, it looks a little scarred up, and like it was quite a task to get out. I wonder, you know, it'd be kind of neat if they do a flashback for Boba, you know, kind of like they did with Cobb Vanth and how he saw Death Star 2 destroyed. That mining company comes in and takes over Mos Pelgo, shows him getting Boba Fett's armor, but they could easily do a flashback and give you a lot of, information on how that occurred. They don't have to, but it'd be neat if they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be. It would be. So we'll see what happens. So, of course, that wraps up episode 1 of season 2. David, let's go ahead and do your closing thoughts first. What were your final thoughts about the episode?
Absolutely. In this year of stress and uncertainty, I can't tell you how happy I am that they completed the filming of this season 4 days before COVID shut everything down. I mean, of course, they don't know that's going to happen. I was just so glad because all they had to do was post-production, during COVID, which they can do a lot of it, they said, from home, which is, again, with these computers nowadays. So thankful it's back. Going back to Tatooine for this adventure was incredibly welcome, in my opinion. We talked about that a little bit. And I really felt like you did, that all the Star Wars feels and goodness was there. I enjoyed seeing Peli again, R5-D4. Being employed by Peli, seeing Tusken Raiders, Banthas, a crate dragon. Oh my gosh! And of course, what I think is the long-awaited reveal of Boba Fett. I thought that was just outstanding. The one problem I had with this episode was Tusken Raiders. They showed him a little bit, obviously, last season in Chapter 5, the Gunslinger, just a little bit. But for me, I keep going back to Anakin's mother, Shmi Skywalker, and how she was being held by Tusken Raiders. And she not only was held captive, but abused. She looks so bad when Anakin gets in there and finds her on Tatooine. And so I just... seeing them team up with the townspeople, of course, they do convey, and even Mando says they're brutal and that they're raiders, but I don't know. It feels like they're trying to present them in a little bit of a good light, but I don't really see them that way because I keep thinking about Shmi Skywalker. So I see them as kind of worse than just being raiders, but they are brutal. So maybe Mando did describe them appropriately. But that's my only thing, is just kind of this. It's a nitpick. Okay, this is nothing big. Clearly the townspeople are not too hip on the Tusken Raiders either. But just a little nitpick. That's all I had. But I thought, I've got to be a little bit of a critic too here. So those are just some of my final thoughts.
Very cool. Very cool. I gotta agree with you that I was very excited when this season started, and I was very excited when we got the date. I was very excited because it's been, everybody will admit, this has been a rough year. And to have this to close out the year, it's just a sprint to the finish of the year, and it's a great way to do it and get our mind off things. And it's, to me, it's a step in making things better. It's a TV show. Nobody's, it's not going to change the world. But, I keep going back to the final scene of Rogue One when they bring Leia the Death Star plans, and they're like, "What did he bring you?" Or "What did they bring you?" And she just like, "Hope." This is our hope to the end of the year, per se. And it didn't disappoint. It was there was a lot of fan service in this episode. I'm not going to deny that. There was a lot of fan service. But that's honestly what made it so enjoyable. It was a lot of fun. We got to see character from the book. We got to see Boba Fett, Boba Fett's armor at least, and possibly Boba Fett himself outside of the armor. We got a return of Baby Yoda, and he didn't overpower the series. We got to see Mando step up and really take control of the episode and take control of the situation, which was awesome. It was just all around just a great episode. I had so much fun with it, and I am so glad we got to discuss it. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we got a brand new segment that we want to introduce right now. This, of course, is what we're going to call David's Psychology Corner. David, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, like I'd mentioned, I wanted to, because I ran this by you like we always do, just an idea to do something a little bit different. And I haven't really done this when Aaron and I have done Rebels reactions and Resistance reactions, or even when we covered the Clone Wars earlier this year, that seventh and final season. I've been toying around with this idea of having a psychology corner. Aaron and I, since we've been recording together since I think 2015 or so, roughly, on and off, and then full time and all that. And but I've purposely not introduced a lot. And Aaron knows that. Aaron and I have talked about it, and I really just wanted to kind of keep Star Wars, and psychology my day job. But I just felt like this season and of Mandalorian, but also watching season 1, I was thinking about it quite a bit as well, is how we could I could share some little tidbits and insights from a psychological perspective, in these various episodes. And I'll say this very quickly, that I really credit Dr. Andrea Letamendi. She's a clinical psychologist out at UCLA who did a podcast, wrapping up a podcast with Amy Ratcliffe here in the next month or two, called Lattes with Leia. And she has another podcast, Dr. Letamendi does, with her husband, that it's called Arkham Sessions, and they went through the 1992 Batman the Animated Series, and she would talk about a different psychological concept each episode, and it's just, she does an incredible job, as does her husband, moderating like Aaron does here. So this isn't super unique. She does. I would encourage you all to listen if you want to learn psychology through pop culture and Batman. Definitely listen to the Arkham Sessions. Dr. Drea does an incredible job, and she does it in Lattes with Leia as well. But I thought I would introduce some of this and just make this unique. I mean, there's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of Mandalorian reviews. But I thought, what, this might put an interesting twist. And like I mentioned earlier, Aaron and I are just curious if you guys like it. Do you not? Is it a waste of time? Is it insightful to you? Make it a little bit different than other Star Wars podcasts and stuff like that. But yeah, this season, it'll just involve insights and things to think about generated from the field of psychology. And I really thought about this theme for Mandalorian season 2 is fatherhood and parenting. And as a clinical psychologist, I've worked with, I don't know how many moms and dads and how many children, tons and tons over 28 years. And so I wanted to really cover a different little issue each episode. And tonight, one of the first things I wanted to do is just touch base on and praise this show for showing a parent, a mom or a dad, in a positive light. Why do I say that? There's a book, a 2016 book called The Collapse of Parenting by Dr. Leonard Sachs. He's an MD, PhD, and he's a pediatrician. That's his MD, and he's a PhD. He's a clinical psychologist, and he just has these great books. This was his 4th book. I have all 4 of his books. And in this, it's interesting because he starts this particular book off with the culture of disrespect, which we see, is pretty evident throughout, American culture right now. Inside, in a particular chapter, it was interesting to see he focused in on how parents have been represented in television. And he stated this, quote unquote, I took the quote right from the book, but I'm giving credit to Dr. Sachs. He says, and he did this, looking through the list of the 150 most popular TV shows on American television right now, I did not find one that depicts a parent as consistently reliable, and trustworthy. And I don't have it in the notes here, but for Aaron and I, but he talks about a number of different TV shows that are out there right now that we've all seen that really show mom or dad as just bungling idiots. And so I put here in summary, it's just a breath of fresh air to see a reliable, caring, and trustworthy parent and father in The Mandalorian. And so that was really neat. So more next episode about fatherhood and parenting. And I'll just give you more and more little tidbits and hopefully, ideas and thoughts to get you thinking about Star Wars from a psychological perspective. So there you go.
Awesome. Very good. Very good, David. I enjoyed that. Let us know what you think of David's Psychology Corner. That's what you'd like to hear more of. We love sharing as much thought and detail as we can. And plus, a lot of good stuff to come. So, David, of course, as you know, we do grade our episodes that we do review. We didn't do it with the It just hit me. We didn't do it with the gallery episodes, which it's really hard to grade those because they're just behind the scenes episodes. So that's our excuse there. But which I just thought of off the top of my head. Yeah, I just talked myself out of that. So I feel better. Looking at Mandalorian Chapter 9, which is the first episode of Season 2, looking at the Marshal, of course, for those of you who have not been through one of our episode reviews, we grade each episode like you would be in school. You get A, B, C, D, or F grading. And personally, for me, definitely there's a lot of fan service in this, a lot of great story. I would say overall, it established what his mission was, but I don't think we pushed the mission forward any in the episode a lot. So for me, I'm going to give it an A minus for me. David, how would you grade the episode?
Yeah, agreed. I did A minus as well. You and I have talked about A's and A pluses over the years. Literally over the years, you and I have talked about what really stands up to the test of time in different animated shows and now in live action. But I think of Season 1, Episode 8. Again, we didn't review that last year because Dan was doing that on the main show, and when we were part of the Coffee with Kenobi Network. But you and I can look back at that, and I would say, maybe 7 and 8 they're like A's. Just outstanding. When Moff Gideon comes out with a darksaber, I mean, that's like, whoa, the A. Maybe you and I have even talked about the rare A plus. But again, you and I have done this before. We've watched seasons of Star Wars, and so there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be some A episodes and maybe even an A plus. If this series goes more than 2 seasons, it sounds like it might be 3 or 4, based on what some of the actors have said. Giancarlo Esposito, I'm looking at you. He's talked about 4 seasons. There's no doubt there's gonna be some A plus in there, but I try to be kind of stingy with those. And so, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Not an A, but an A minus because it's just incredible with all the stuff we saw. But it's not for me a C or a B. It's just incredible. And so, and love seeing Boba Fett armor and the stinger at the end with Tim Morrison.
Yes, it was definitely a good stinger at the end. So very cool, very good. So, what did y'all think of this episode of The Mandalorian? You can let us know by hitting us up online on our social media accounts: Facebook, Star Wars Reactions, Twitter, SW Reactions Pod, and of course Instagram, SW Reactions. Let us know what you think of the episode. How would you grade it? What were your likes and dislikes? Also, let us know about the show, because David, I have to say real quick, I got to congratulate you. We've made it 25 episodes so far.
I was going to say.
This is episode 25. So we're 25 episodes into Star Wars reactions, and we're having fun. We hope you are too. Let us know too what you think of the show. We're 25 episodes in. We're always looking for great feedback. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like. Let us know, and let us know, because we're always looking to improve and just have fun. So definitely let us know. You can also, I mentioned the social media accounts. You can also email us, show@StarWarsReactions.com as well. So hit us up there. David, if somebody wanted to talk Star Wars with you off the air, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, Star Wars or psychology, right, buddy?
Or psychology.
Yeah, see what they think. Two different ways. It's always been the same on Twitter. It's at David_Modders, and email is David at SWReactions.com.
StarWarsReactions.com. That's right.
There we go.
That's right. And of course, if you want to talk Star Wars with me, the best way to do that is Twitter, TA Harris 121079. Or, of course, you can email me, Aaron at StarWarsReactions.com. We'd love to hear from you and just have fun. David, my friend, this has been a blast.
Oh, man, I'm so thankful we're covering this together. You and I've said this, and you mentioned just a minute ago, 25 episodes. Something that I heard when, even before you and I started doing podcasts together, is, a lot of people try to do it, and a lot of them don't last, even 5, 10, or 15 episodes. And, of course, you and I have done a ton of other episodes on Rebels reactions and Resistance reactions. So, I was trying to remember, it was a little bit ago, you passed 100. Which is just outstanding, because you've done even more than me, and but I'm so thankful I get to do them with you, and I'm so glad we get to cover Mandalorian, a new season, like we said, during a very difficult 2020, and you and I will keep going strong.
Absolutely, we will, and we hope y'all will keep going strong as well. We appreciate each and every one of you. We love y'all. We pray for y'all daily. We hope your 2020 is getting better. I know it's a crazy time right now, but things are going to get better. Things will get better, and as Leia says, there's always hope, and we have that hope. So we appreciate each and every one of you. We will be back next week when we review chapter 10 of The Mandalorian. So we'll talk to you. We'll be looking forward to talking to y'all again next week. Thank y'all for listening in to Star Wars Reactions. This is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@StarWarsReactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.StarWarsReactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.